After starting 4-1 on the season, the Jacksonville Jaguars currently have a 4-3 record, and I still have a lot of faith in this team moving forward, but they have to stop beating themselves. It is very important coming off this bye week that they go out and they take care of business against the Las Vegas Raiders. Then they'll face the Houston Texans. Then they'll face the Los Angeles Chargers. So you're looking at a situation against the Raiders. That should be an easy win. That's against one of the worst teams in the NFL. Against the Houston Texans, the Jaguars are favored in that matchup. But at the same time, division games are tricky. It's hard to defeat the same team twice because you're very familiar with each other. And the Los Angeles Chargers, they are a serious threat in the AFC, just like the Jacksonville Jaguars, but they have to stop defeating themselves. They're their biggest enemy right now. And let me explain. The Jacksonville Jaguars in week 1, even though they won that matchup against the Carolina Panthers, you had 11 penalties in that game. 6 penalties in week 2 against the Cincinnati Bengals, and you lost this game. The Jaguars should have been 5-0. That penalty on Travis Hunter late in the fourth quarter was not defensive pass interference. But you lost the game due to other factors as well, with Trevor Lawrence having multiple interceptions in that game. 9 penalties against the Houston Texans in week 3. 12 penalties against the San Francisco 49ers in week 4. You did dial down the penalties against Kansas City in that win. You only had 4 penalties, but you had 10 penalties against the Seattle Seahawks and 13 penalties against the Los Angeles Rams in week 7. And you lost the last 2 matchups against Seattle and against the Los Angeles Rams. You have to stop these penalties. And we have seen this over the last few years in Jacksonville since Trevor Lawrence has been the starting quarterback. A bunch of false starts on the offensive end, a bunch of holding penalties. Illegal blocking the back with the wide receivers. This is carried over from Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer was a terrible head coach, but you can't blame him anymore. They had a bunch of penalties then. They had a bunch of penalties with Doug Peterson over the last few years, and they're having a bunch of penalties right now with Liam Cohen. We always get on coaches and say, well, if you're not going out there and you're not correcting it in practice, you're letting it happen in practice, is going to carry over to the game. But this is the weird thing here. A bunch of reporters have come out, credible sources, and they will say that the Jacksonville Jaguars offensive line and their offensive skill position players at the wide receiving position and at the running back position, they're not having these penalties in practice. But in the regular season, they're having these dumb penalties. And it's not a situation to what happened with the Cincinnati Bengals, to where the referees were terrible, and the same thing against Kansas City a few weeks ago. A bunch of these penalties are legit. The players have to be better, especially on this offensive line. Trevor Lawrence has been sacked 14 times over the last 2 weeks going into the bye week. He got sacked 7 times against the Seattle Seahawks. He got sacked 7 times against the Los Angeles Rams. This offensive line has to be better in run blocking and pass protecting. And this is the one thing with Trevor Lawrence. He was seen as a generational prospect coming out of Clemson. The best prospect that we've seen since Andrew Luck. We've heard the same song and dance before. But Trevor Lawrence, he has his own flaws, and we'll get into it in this video. But it's only so much a quarterback can do when he's constantly under pressure. Week in and week out, dating back to week 1 against the Carolina Panthers, he did not get sacked in that matchup. But he still had to move outside the pocket to make some key plays. Against the Cincinnati Bengals, he only got sacked once, but he got pressured a lot. And the same thing happened against the Houston Texans. And this is an offensive line unit that the Jaguars have put a lot of resources in with Walker Little. The same with Anton Harrison, Ezra Cleveland at the left guard position. Robert Hainsey, they brought him over from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because Liam Cohen is comfortable with him at the center position. And you can make the case that Trevor Lawrence does hold on to the football for a very long time here and there, but it's not constant. And when he does hold on to the football for a very long time, those are long developing plays down the field. So not every sack is created equal. A lot of it is on this offensive line. And this has been the case dating back to year 1 with Trevor Lawrence. And the Jacksonville Jaguars have had a huge problem with catching the football since his rookie season. Just this season alone, once again, they lead the league in drop passes with 25. The team that is next to them, the Cleveland Browns, with 16. That is ridiculous. You have 25 drop passes. That's with Brian Thomas Jr. The same with Parker Washington. That's why I'm saying right now, it is very important to have Travis Hunter be this offensive player more than just to go out there and to be this offensive player every single week. Brian Thomas Jr. does lead the team in receiving yards, and he is still a talented wide receiver. But he only has 365 receiving yards on the season and 1 receiving touchdown. The chemistry with him and Trevor Lawrence, it is not there yet. When you go back to last season, when he had that historic rookie season, majority of those numbers came with Mac Jones. Trevor Lawrence missed majority of the year dealing with a shoulder injury. Mac Jones gave him the football. It wasn't Trevor Lawrence. And early on in his rookie season, it had a lot of people questioning, was Brian Thomas Jr. the right pick? We know that he's a talented player, but him and Trevor Lawrence, they have to get on the same page with those back shoulder throws. And the chemistry needs to be there deep down the middle of the field. The one thing that I have noticed with Trevor Lawrence, the back shoulder throw has never been there in his career, only at the college level. But since he's come over to the NFL, the windows are tighter. The game is faster. He just can't hit that back window throw just yet, that back shoulder throw. And you have to be technical with that throw. He needs to clean up his accuracy. And at the same time, Brian Thomas Jr. needs to be better with his hands. Travis Hunter, I think that there's more upside as an offensive player than being a defensive player. But this is the same team. They traded Tyson Campbell to the Cleveland Browns, and they let up 5 passing touchdowns to Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams overseas. Maybe if you put Travis Hunter in at the cornerback position, Devontae Adams doesn't have the day that he has, and Matthew Stafford doesn't have the day that he has either. But they have to do a better job of utilizing Travis Hunter on both ends of the field. Run him into the ground at this point. He hasn't dealt with major injuries, and he has been phenomenal in certain spots and certain matchups. Against Kansas City, he had a huge catch early in that game. He had a huge play on Travis Kelce in the second quarter. We see that the potential is there, and I know that it's hard for a player to split time between being a receiver and being a defensive back. But this is why you brought him in. You traded a first-round pick to bring him in. So let him go out there and let him play wide receiver. Let him play defensive back. If you have a favorable matchup on the offensive end and the cornerbacks are weak in the game plan, give him more catches as a wide receiver. If you're going against this loaded offense, similar to the Los Angeles Rams, even though they did not have Puka Nacua, they have a veteran wide receiver in Devontae Adams, you may want to allocate that time to him being a defensive back. It depends on matchups, and that comes down to the head coach. At the end of the day, Liam Cohen has final say-so, and Anthony has been a phenomenal defensive coordinator this season. And you look at Grant Udinski, he's figuring things out as an offensive coordinator. I'm pretty sure that Anthony and Grant Udinski, they're in meetings and they're arguing with each other and saying, hey, I need Travis Hunter here. But it comes down to Liam Cohen. He needs to say, hey, this is our scouting report. We're going against the Las Vegas Raiders. Right now, their defense on the back end, it isn't that good. We need Travis Hunter to go out there and make splash plays with Brian Thomas Jr. dealing with an injury right now. He's questionable for this week's matchup against the Raiders. And the Raiders offense is one of the weakest offenses in the NFL. They can't run the football. And on top of that, Geno Smith has been terrible in terms of taking care of the football. So you may not need Travis Hunter on the defensive end. But if Geno Smith goes out there and he's picking you apart in the air, then you put in Travis Hunter. Situations like that. You let him split time. And depends on the matchup, you put him out there. And when you face a team like Kansas City, he gets a full workload. I know that they want to take care of his body. They want to ease him into this role. But right now, we're at the halfway point in the season. We need to see more consistency out of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And they need as much talent on the field as possible. But offensively here, Brian Thomas Jr., still a very good player. Just needs to be more consistent with Trevor Lawrence. And this is my one critique with Trevor Lawrence up to this point in the season. He needs to be a game changer for the Jaguars. We've seen him have good moments in his career. Winning that playoff game against the Los Angeles Chargers, dialing in the second half, having that phenomenal second year in his first year with Doug Peterson. But it's the consistency with Trevor Lawrence. And it's the little things. He'll run out of bounds. And he doesn't even realize where he's at on the field. So now instead of being in 2nd and 10, you're in 2nd and 16 because your quarterback ran out of bounds. Or taking a dumb sack when you can just take your check down with ETN underneath. Or the same with your tight end. Having open wide receivers and just missing them in space. The accuracy needs to be better. And he is so frustrating because he has all the tools. Look at what he did against Kansas City. That interception was not on him. That was blatant pass interference and the referees missed it. Wink, wink. And they still won that matchup because Trevor Lawrence, he falls down. The offensive lineman, they step on his foot. he gets up, he runs around. That's the ball game there. And your defense helped you out late in the fourth quarter after that. But they just need Trevor Lawrence to be better. Stop taking dumb sacks, take what the defense gives you, and keep this offense on schedule. And he has to be better with his accuracy. And I still think that Trevor Lawrence can be a very good quarterback in this league. And I understand you had a terrible head coach your rookie season in Urban Meyer, but that was a long time ago. You had Doug Peterson. He became a terrible coach over the last few years and a bad offense that didn't use motion. Now you have Liam Cohen, who did great things last season with Baker Mayfield. He got him going into the next level with Mike Evans, and the same with Chris Godwin. Gave him a competent run game. We know that he can coach you up. Grant Udinski is a very good offensive mind in this league. He's in his 20s, and he may be a head coach in the next 4 to 5 years. And you finally have a defense that can have your back. Now, against the Rams, they let up a lot of points. They did lose that game. The defense did not show up, 35-7. But at the same time, Trevor Lawrence, you can only get a touchdown on the field. You need to be better. Against Seattle, your defense still helped you out. They limited their offense to only 20 points on the day. You lost that game 20-12. And it's not all on Trevor Lawrence. But what they paid you and where they selected you in the NFL draft, you need to help them out in some of those situations. Your defense is not going to be able to go out there every single week and get 2 to 3 takeaways. There's going to be some weeks where you run into a quarterback like Matthew Stafford and you have to win a shootout, especially in today's NFL. Now, speaking of this defense here, they had 13 takeaways in the first 5 games. They were able to go out there, force fumbles, get interceptions. The defense was phenomenal. And I know that their defense has been dealing with injuries over the last couple of weeks. Devin Lloyd was not able to play against the Rams. He had that phenomenal play against Kansas City, that 99-yard pick six. Devin Lloyd is one of the best linebackers in the game. But their defense needs to be better as well. I believe that they had an off week against the Rams, and they really need this bye week this week. But the one thing that I will say about this defense with the Jaguars, maybe you guys can let me know in the comment section below if you're a Jaguars fan. I know that Tyson Campbell dealt with a lot of injuries over the last 2 years, but he was still a very good cornerback when he was on the field. You make that trade to the Cleveland Browns to bring in Greg Newsome. I view Tyson Campbell as a top cornerback in the AFC when he's fully healthy. I believe that he's a better player than Greg Newsome. Maybe I'm out of touch with that take, but that's just me. I've seen more splash plays with Tyson Campbell when he's been fully healthy on the back end of this defense than Greg Newsome with the Cleveland Browns. And it's not me saying that Greg Newsome is a bad football player, but he was not the best cornerback in Cleveland. The best cornerback in Cleveland has been Denzel Ward in terms of man and zone coverage. Tyson Campbell has been the best cornerback with the Jaguars when fully healthy. So maybe they really made the trade because he couldn't stay healthy and they wanted to bring in a more solid option that could stay on the field every single week in Greg Newsome. But I believe that move is going to hurt them over the next couple of weeks. But Josh Allen, phenomenal pass rusher. You have Trayvon Walker. He has been amazing in his career with the Jacksonville Jaguars, has gotten better every single year since his rookie season. And he had to have wrist surgery. And he's missed some time this year. He missed that game against Kansas City. You have those guys fully healthy in that front seven. They can get things going. They can stop the run. They can get to the quarterback on a consistent basis with Devon Hamilton and the same with Eric Armstead. And I know that the sack numbers are not that impressive right now with Trayvon Walker. He only has 2 sacks. And when you look at someone like Josh Allen, he only has half a sack on the season. But the pressure rate is high. And they're able to go out there and they're able to stop the run. They have a top rushing defense in the NFL. Entering that game against the Seattle Seahawks. They just had an off game against the Los Angeles Rams. And Liam Cohen did get outcoached by Sean McVay. Ola Khan is a very good linebacker to have. 2 forced fumbles on the season, 1 sack, 1 interception, 30 solo tackles. He's a do-it-all linebacker. You can blitz him. He can stop the run. He can make plays in coverage. And speaking of Devin Lloyd one more time to give him his flowers, has just been a freak this year. 4 interceptions, 16 solo tackles. 4 interceptions for a linebacker is insane. That's tied for the most in the NFL for a single player. And you have Jaron Jones on the back end of this defense. And Jordan Lewis has been a consistent cornerback inside the nickel position, blitzing off the edge, covering tight ends even, in short yardage situations. But he has been a phenomenal pickup. And this is the one thing with Jordan Lewis. He can get the dirty work done. He loves to make tackles in space on running backs. But look at the Jaguars here. when you face the Houston Texans again, it depends on how this offensive line looks. If you can defeat the Houston Texans, you sweep them in this division. You still have a chance to make the NFL playoffs because we're so early in the season. The way that I look at it, I believe that 3 teams will make it out of Kansas City's division with Kansas City, the Denver Broncos, and the Los Angeles Chargers. I have that locked in if all those teams can stay fully healthy. When you look at the AFC North division, Steelers, Ravens, Browns, Bengals, I think only 1 team makes it out. Therefore, there's going to be an open spot in the AFC in the playoffs, and I would love to see the Jacksonville Jaguars get that spot. The Indianapolis Colts right now, statistically, they are the best team in the AFC, but you have a chance to go out there and to derail their season because they're in your division. You don't only face them once, but you face them twice. And I'm not saying the Jaguars will go out there, they'll sweep the Colts, but if you win 1 game, that's a win in your back pocket against one of the best teams in the NFL. And you went out there and you defeated Kansas City a few weeks ago. So if you're a Jaguars fan, you're down your team right now, I'll just tell you, just be patient. If Trevor can be more consistent, and that's a big if, and this offensive line needs to play better, the Jacksonville Jaguars could be in the NFL playoffs yet again. I would love to see it. I believe that 2 teams would make it out of this division. I believe that it'll be Indy, and I believe that it'll be the Jacksonville Jaguars. I am not sold on the Houston Texans and their offensive line. Love CJ as a quarterback, but that offensive line is terrible. And the Jaguars, you already beat them this season. You pretty much dominated that game until Tyson Campbell had the one-off coverage look. And maybe that's another reason why they traded Tyson Campbell. I'm starting to answer my own questions in this video. But that was just one bad play on Tyson Campbell. He misread the defense. He took the flat instead of going up and trailing the wide receiver, and Nico Collins was open for a touchdown. But Brian Thomas Jr. and Trevor Lawrence got their chemistry going late in the matchup, and it helped you win that game. That's what you're looking more for if you are a Jacksonville Jaguars fan. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you feel about the Jacksonville Jaguars? Do you still view them as a top team in the AFC? And my biggest thing here with this team is this: stop being your own worst enemy. Stop with the penalties and the turnovers. And that's on Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. But if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless. Peace.